So for today, we have a couple of things on the agenda for talking about different topics. As you can see here, looking at our reflection for the last 42 years of service for the food bank, the transition of our CEO, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic impact, strategic plan updates, inflation, the supply chain, food supply outlook, and team restructures. So that's what we have on the agenda today. And as we're going through this meeting, for your best view and experience, I know we've had some team meetings before, but just as a reminder, you can utilize the chat box to be engaged in conversation with us. If you want to have any responses to what's being said, please make sure that you turn your camera off and your mic off until we get to the Q&A session. During that Q&A session at the end of this meeting, we will have the time and to ask any questions that you guys, answer any questions that you guys have. And we have a new feature that we're going to be using today. It is a Q&A feature, and it looks just like this. Right at the top of your screen has that two bubbles with a question mark in it. You can click on that to submit your questions, and then we can gather that up, and then at the Q&A session can ask us questions then, or if at that time, at the appropriate time, we can ask that you unmute and ask your question. All right. Well, I would like to introduce to you, not necessarily introduction at this point, but introduce to you those that we will be speaking with today. First, we'll be speaking with Mr. Peter Werbicki, our CEO and president of the food bank. And so he will have some time to talk with you first this morning. And Mr. Peter, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate the introduction. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Peter Werbicki, President and CEO of the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina for a little bit longer. I actually, again, if you're not aware of, I'm retiring from the food bank after 25 years. And I really appreciate this afternoon the opportunity to do a little bit of reflection. You can see on the agenda there, reflection of 42 years of service. And I'm going to sort of make it my prerogative a little bit as CEO, perhaps to spend a little bit more time talking about the last 25 years versus a reflection of 42 years. But 42 years is indeed how long this organisation has been operating. And I guess, that for me, I'd just like to acknowledge those individuals who came before me and who began our organisation 42 years ago. I couldn't imagine how they would have anticipated that their vision of food banking 42 years ago to where it is today, that they could have imagined at all what they had begun and what they had set the platform for doing. In fact, I, on occasion, have the opportunity to meet with the initial executive director of the food bank, Barbara Oates, and she's always in constant awe of the size and scope of the organisation today, the community support that we receive, and for the work of the partner agencies. As she would say, the food bank began from humble beginnings. And, again, I'd like to sort of reflect upon my 25 years at the food bank and what I have seen in terms of evolution of the organisation during that time. And I think first and foremost, I kind of just wanted to talk about our footprint, if you like, our facilities. So when I joined the organisation, we had 3 facilities and our total footprint was about 55,000 square feet. We had a our operation here in Raleigh, that was on Tar Hill Road, and then we had a branch. Our only branch at that time was the Sandhills, which actually began the same time the organisation began 40 years ago. And then Wilmington at that time was not a branch, but was a subsidiary. So in total at that time, we had 55,000 square feet of space. Come to today, when you take in all of the branches, the 6 facilities that we have today, we've grown to an astonishing 230,000 square feet we have between all of the facilities. A big piece of that, of course, was about 6 years ago to the day when we opened up our new headquarter site here in Raleigh in our 108,000 square foot facility in Raleigh. But actually, I want to kind of perhaps pay a little bit more attention to the branches and the growth of the branches that we've seen in 25 years. As I'd mentioned, 25 years ago, we only had the one at Sandhills. And since then, we've launched Greenville, we launched Durham, both back in 1999, just around the time that Hurricane Floyd had hit us. We managed to change the structure of the Wilmington branch from a subsidiary to a branch. And then, in the last, several years, we launched our site in New Bern. The branch system is very unique in the Feeding America network. There are not many other Feeding America members that have a branch structure or a branch system. And many of our branches, when you look at them in terms of output of food, they're actually larger than many of the Feeding America independent members. So they have become a very integral part of our structure and of our system. And, again, from where they began, I recall, they were an idea. They were a concept that we weren't sure that was going to materialize, that was going to work. And so many of the branches started off very small. Many of you will remember, there might have been about a 5,000 square foot facility with just some household refrigerators and freezers in, maybe a part-time staff person. And, we quickly gathered over time that the partner agencies in particular really appreciated the convenience of the branches, and we understood how important it was for us to have some kind of facility or footprint in the local community. And over the course of 25 years, the growth of the branches has been staggering, really. We also at the time, again, because they were sort of an idea, we only sort of thought about renting these or leasing these facilities. And as we understood that they were going to become more of a permanent fixture in the community, we have since moved to not only just being property owners, but in addition, we just held our first branch capital campaign in Wilmington for a new 30,000 square foot facility, which we're really excited about. That is currently being built and underway and hope to be completed with in early January, February. Initially, I would say that we began the branches very operational, trying to get food down from Raleigh more into the community, so easier access for the partner agencies. But since that time, we've expanded upon many of our services at the branches. The majority of our branches have volunteer services, various programs operating from our branches. have fundraisers at our branches. So I think my message here really, in terms of, putting this around the state of the food bank, is to say that in terms of our footprint and our branch infrastructure, that we're here for the long haul. We know that they are successful and have been appreciated by the community. We're no longer leasing all of our facilities, that we've invested and plan to future invest in our branches, not just the size footprint, but the infrastructure that we've put into place throughout this time and continue to put in place. It's a quite exciting time for the Sandhills right now, where we're adding a lot of infrastructure and doing some renovation at the Sandhills. The Newburn facility, we've just moved to a 30,000 square foot facility that we leased to begin with, but we had the option to purchase, and we're going to make good on that purchase in the next few months and actually own that facility. As I'd mentioned, we're excited about Wilmington. Durham also has had a lot of infrastructure put in place, new freezers and coolers. Greenville is one, I think, that is next on the list to look to see where that particular facility is heading. And of course, our new headquarters here in Raleigh has, proven to be very successful for us this last 6 years. So just some perspective of how much we've grown in footprint in terms of our facilities over a period of time. And the message I want to leave with everybody is that our branches, we're here for the long haul, and see them as being much more of our future success. The second area I kind of wanted to reflect upon was our programs, and I think when I came to the food bank 25 years ago, I wouldn't say that we had too many programs that we'd initiated. And I think in the course of the last 25 years, again, that has really evolved as the organisation has grown. And I'm going to separate the programs, if you like, into two different areas. We've got our federal programs and we've got our private programs. For me personally, one of my favourites was 2 weeks into the job here at the food bank was when we started to have a conversation with North Carolina Department of Ag over the Emergency Feeding Assistance Program, which affectionately has become now our TFAP program. So that again launched 20 odd years ago, and I think, if memory recalls, we started off in about 8 to 10 counties. We had, not too many partner agencies participating, and the paperwork was just so incredibly bureaucratic. So that program, as you know, has sort of over the years really developed. We don't have a TFAP operation in all 34 counties right now, but nearly in all 34 counties. And, again, it has provided so much food to so many people over time. During the course of time, we realised that we needed to begin a summer feeding programme for the children while school lunches and breakfasts were out, and have done that now for more than several years with a number of you all to help feed the children during the summer, and of course sort of help the parents during that time. We have a child and adult care program. In the last 3 to 4 years, we launched our seniors program, the CSFP program, which has really developed very quickly, where we've got a caseload now of about 8,500 seniors that we're serving. And then sort of we've moved also into our federal programs, not so much by supplying food, if you like, but, you know, through our benefits outreach program, helping people with assistance for SNAP outreach. And we've helped hundreds, you know, thousands of people in the course of the time of doing that. We're excited right now about a pilot program that is a federal program that's just been launched, what we call in our Healthy Opportunities program, where people who are visiting healthcare institutes are getting referrals to us and through us for food and household delivery of that food. So an array of federal programs that we've begun and started in the last 25 years. And I did want to share that from a, you know, not just operating those programs, but it's important, you know, for us and for you to support and help, hopefully, us when we are doing any public policy or advocacy for any of those programs that might increase the size of those programs, that might help with some of the institutional kind of paperwork, etc., that is required. And, you know, in terms of the state of those programs, you know, we as a staff and as an organization will be working to, again, develop and build out and simplify those programs as much as we can. On the other side of that, we now have an array of private funding programs that we began in the course of the last 25 years. Our Kids Cafe programs, I recall very well the first time that we received a gift from Blue Cross Blue Shield for $1 million to launch the Kids Cafe programs, you know, for all 34 counties. We've been able to sustain those programs well beyond after that money, you know, run out for us. And in addition, you know, we've been able to develop other type programs, such as our Weekend Power Pack program, or in Sandhills, our Backpack Pals program. Then in addition to that, of course, you know, we've developed a fairly robust purchase program. We know that we cannot supply everything that partner agencies need in the warehouse. So that has become, you know, a mainstay of the organization to provide first line product. Also kind of moving out of just simply providing food. 6 years ago, we launched our community health and engagement department to try to initiate different programs that would help supply and give resources and initiatives into the community. Nutrition education programs that we've begun, school pantries, food systems. We are now moving into workforce development programs, healthy pantries. And, you know, one of the pleasing things for me with these privately funded programs is that we've been able to sustain and build upon them. Very important for us, you know, is that anything that we try to begin, we want to make sure that we can sustain it. And, you know, we've created so many different partnerships through private fundraising of those programs. So again, you know, for me, our program element has grown substantially in the last 25 years and has been sustained. And, you know, either federally or private, you know, we aim to continue that expansion or the sustainment of those programs. Food resources, I wanted to touch upon our food resources and reflect upon that over the last 25 years. Again, when I joined the organisation, I think we were distributing about £7 million at that time a year. We just finished up the latest fiscal year just shy of £100 million. which was actually down from the peak of COVID when we did over £130 million. Just to give you some perspective there in terms of that size, in and amongst the Feeding America network of 200 plus members, £100 million distributed is going to rank us nationally in the top 15 food banks. So we're very proud of that, that we're able, to gather and collect the food resources and grow and cultivate those relationships. A couple of other things that I wanted to get across to you today is that, the culture here at the food bank, if you've not heard about it from staff around food resources, is that we don't ever refuse a donation. I want you all to know that, that we sort of feel it's very important that if food is being offered to us, that we want to take every advantage of that donation. Sometimes we know not all of the donations are of the same nutritional quality value that we possibly would always like, but that doesn't, for us, mean that we're not going to respond and accept that donation and take advantage of it. Strategically, we are constantly looking at trying to provide higher or the highest level of nutritional product that we can. But again, if it's not there, it doesn't mean that we're not going to accept that donation. I think something that's interesting for me, again, I remember when I first joined, doing an analysis of our sort of food content, and our perishable distribution at that time was less than 10%. Today it's 60% of what we do. And we're so grateful for you all, in accepting and helping us build that perishable program that we have. What's also important to us and has been important to us over the years is how we allocate those food resources. We believe it very important as a 34 county organisation that we try to share and allocate the food resources as equitably as we can. And we're not perfect because we're not a manufacturer, because we don't know how much food we're going to intake on a monthly, daily basis. It's difficult for us to predict. But we do look back over time and measure, if you like, fairness of food out amongst our service area into our counties. And we make adjustments if we feel that we're operating outside of that. So I just kind of, again, wanted to share, that with you all. I would say on a food resource front, we've, again, in the course of 25 years, we've now really established ourselves with many of our, and forged strong alliances and partnerships with food donors in our service area. That's not to say that we've still not got many to try and, bring into the network, but we do have very strong relationships. And I think sort of certainly our retailers, are very much a strong partner of the food bank. They always have been, but I feel that sort of the last 5-10 years that has even grown stronger, and I don't see that changing at all. They see that as an integral part of their philanthropic, if you like, arm and work to support the food banks in their work and feeding the agencies and feeding people who are living with food insecurity. We again hope to continue to develop more food sources, especially as sort of our demographic changes and culturally appropriate foods. It's something we're very heavily strategically looking at right now and working upon. And also some of our distribution methods may change in the future as well. We do about, I think, 40% of what we do we deliver today, and we know that is an important aspect of what we do, and we want to continue to do that, and actually even perhaps do more of it where we know partner agencies are not in our service area that we can access. And you'll be hearing a little bit more about that in an update we're going to give of our strategic plan. So all of the above, the food resources, the programs, our footprint, and all of that growth, it doesn't happen without any community support. And I want to kind of break that down a little bit in terms of our community support and what I've seen over the course of the last 25 years. First of all, talk about our financial supporters. We've steadily built over time a broader base of donors here in our service area. 25 years ago, our operating budget was $1 million. This year it's $30 million. And we aim to raise over 21 million of that through our fundraising stream. So it's a heavy lift, but we have actually, in the course of COVID, been fortunate enough to raise funds at even a higher level of that. It's a very unpredictable time right now with fundraising. We brought on quite a lot of substantial new donors during COVID, and our plan now is to look to retain and sustain those donors over time. But in the region of 20 to 30,000 new donors that we had come on board during the COVID period. Over 70% of our funding from donors comes from individuals. So just to give you an idea, of the fundraising sort of breakdown. We've, over a course of time, we've been able to develop a lot of tools and systems, build resources into our development, brand awareness, broaden our brand awareness, etc. And we're in a very, positive, strong place at this point. Our cash reserves are in a good place, for sure. And I've known it very different over time here at the food bank, but I'm happy to say right now we're on a strong footing. At this sort of somewhat volatile time in terms of the economy, etc. I know one of the things that we were able to accomplish during COVID, which might be close and dear to your heart, was remove shared maintenance from you all. And just to share at this point in time, there is no plan in place for us to go back, to requesting that support, that sort of operating support to help our operation support. I can't say that will be, 100% guaranteed for the future, but certainly short term, I can share with you right now that is not anything that we are, looking at. And again, we're able simply to do that because of, particularly the influx of donors that we saw through COVID that has been able for us to increase our revenue stream. Along with community support, of course, is volunteers. We have nationally one of the largest volunteer programs in the country. Again, going back to the branches, it's something that we strategically aimed to do, was be able to host volunteers at each of our branches. There is nothing like bringing people into the facilities to make them more aware of our work. And of course, there's always something for our volunteers to do in terms of our culture of bringing produce into the organisation and helping us put some quality on that and get it out into your hands. And then finally, under community support is you all, our partner agencies. I think for me, I came from sort of the for-profit world, and food banking and non-profit was very new to me. And I can't tell you how much, what a rich and rewarding experience it has been to partner and work alongside you all. You are amazing, and your work in the community, is just again simply amazing. You are so important to us. We cannot be successful if you are not successful in trying to feed hungry people and rid us of hunger. So I think in the course of the last, not say 25 years, but certainly over the last 10, and certainly right now, we are very much, wanting to support you where we can in capacity building, and strengthening our partner agencies as much as we can possibly do. And again, I just wanted to leave you with that. It's very important to us that you're successful and that we can support you in any way, shape that we can, through resources that we have, whether that's financial, whether that's staffing, whatever it may be. But again, just wanted to share that with you all. So that's kind of like 25 years in 15 minutes doesn't do it a lot of justice, but I don't want to extend over my time. I think just sort of a reflection over the last couple of years in terms of the pandemic. Actually, I mean, I could say for many of you, as for many of the staff here, if you've been at this organisation for the last 5 years, I know it's been truly heavy. We've had Hurricane Matthew, we've had Hurricane Florence, and we've had a pandemic to deal with. And I just cannot thank you all for the support that you've given us, and the support that you have, given the community. There's been plenty of records that have been broken. I'm sure you've seen plenty of records broken. You've distributed more food to more people than you've ever done in the past. We saw, lots of new food that was coming from the feds. One of the biggest successes, I think, of the 2.5 years COVID was the COVID assistance food program, or the truck to trunk program, and just we've been highlighted nationally for how successful we responded to that program, to the additional TFAP product that was coming in, the CARES funding that we received, the AARP funding that we received, all was spent towards bringing in more food. And again, I just wanted to extend my deepest thanks to you all for supporting, for being as flexible as we were in trying to gather as many resources as we could for the community. I'm sure, like us, there were many things that you learned through that time, about your capacity. We learned so much about your capacity during that time. You took our breaths away. That we've come up with new distribution methods that we may sustain. But basically, we learned that, we as partners were flexible and are adaptable and will do what it takes to serve the community. I think the question is now is sort of, where are we now? We've seen, hopefully we've come out of the worst of the pandemic. We've, plateaued down a little bit in terms of the number of people you are all reporting as being served, although it's not gone back down to pre-COVID. And now, of course, we're moving into a sort of what phase of COVID we're in, but what sort of economic uncertainty are we in at this point in time with the cost of living increases, with inflation. It's hurting us in our operations, etc. I know it's hurting you, and I know it's hurting the people that we serve. I think for me, whenever like there's been a disaster or pandemic, I always look to try and see and take what positives away there could be. And I certainly know, again, just not over 25 years, but in the last few years, there has been, because of these disasters, because of COVID, a greater awareness and education and understanding of our work together to the larger community, and that we brought on many new partners, many new supporters, which provides us with lots more opportunity. And we aim to leverage that, as much as possible, and as quickly as possible. I think one of the outcomes of COVID and people going hungry and the number rising so quickly is this upcoming White House Food Insecurity Summit that has been launched. So I think, again, if out of all of this hard work and trauma that we've seen, it's exposed and brought greater light to our work, then I take that as a positive and look forward to, again, taking that opportunity and leveraging it as much as possible so that we can put this, to bed, which I know we would all love to, seriously see that no one goes hungry in Central and Eastern North Carolina. The last piece I just wanted to cover, as mentioned, after 25 years, I am retiring, so there will be a transition of CEO here at the food bank. The board of directors have been busy with that process, and hired a national search company, which I think took in about 144 applicants for the position. So it's a process, and it is, I think, coming to closure soon and shortly. There's no announcements yet, but we're hopeful that there'll be time for me to spend with whomever replaces me. And even when I retire at the end of October, I've made it clear I want this transition to be as successful as possible for the organisation, for you all, for the staff, and we'll spend whatever time I need with whoever replaces me. So look out for that. I hope that my replacement, I feel so remiss that I have not spent more time with you all and been out. Actually, I used to enjoy that a lot when I first came here with a gentleman called Larry Morris, who many of you know. We used to spend hours in the car traveling the network, and unfortunately the last couple and a half years I have not been able to do a lot of that. So I hope my successor, and I will be encouraging them to come out and see you all and spend time with you and get to learn about your work and what you do. Maybe I'll pay a few visits before I retire, but again, you have opened my eyes, in terms of the support, just your work in the community. Again, not all the news is always good news, but it's just such a security to know there are people like you in the community who are loving one another, who are caring for each other, and who are, just taking care of one another. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Oh, that was great to hear all that you shared with us, and we're so happy to have you here for the last couple of months. Now we will transition to Charlie Hale, our Senior VP of Operation and Programs.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Good afternoon, everybody. As Lakeisha said, I'm Charlie Hale. I'm VP of Ops here at the Food Bank. And for the Food Bank, operations has grown over the past year or so. It includes the programs department, which is our kids and senior programs, which Peter talked about. Our general operations department, which is your transportation, inventory control, warehousing, food safety, and of course the food sourcing and network services department, which as you all know, we brought our food sourcing and network services together earlier this year, and is the department that you all work with very regularly. Just wanted to follow up quickly on Peter's comments about the pandemic, and just share a couple of slides with you. What you see now, this is the food bank's distribution every year by year, from July 1 to June 30th, going back to nearly the beginning of time, 91, 92. That's how much food we distributed each year. And obviously, it has a trajectory to it. Next slide, if you could, Lakeisha. That's kind of our normal trajectory of growth, and it's been pretty consistent over the years, going back, to the early and mid 90s. And then next slide, Lakeisha. There's something that sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's the pandemic. That is when we did nearly 140 million pounds of food distribution, and it was unsustainable. It was driven by federal programs. The TFAP program exploded with a number of funding streams flowing through TFAP, the CARES, the FFCRA, cost programs funding additional TFAP commodities, and of course the CFAP program, where we learned a great deal about truck to trunk. And the CFAP program alone, while it wasn't perfect, we were able to move 27 million pounds through that program in a 13-month period, which was a program that went from 0 to 27 million pounds back to 0 in 13 months. And we took advantage of every opportunity we had. Again, of course, it didn't work out perfectly everywhere, but we said no to no food as always, and moved it as much as we could through you, our partner agencies. And it was great where it worked out. Excellent food, first line product. Next slide, Lakeisha, if you don't mind. This is just, very quickly, distribution growth year to year. And of course, you see the big spike. You see it looks kind of normal most years. It's, 2, 3, 4 million pounds, 5 million pounds. Then you see the big spike with the pandemic, and then you see the big drop that we all just went through this past fiscal year that ended in June 30th of this year. So I just wanted to share that and remind us all of what we've been through. Certainly, as Peter said, we learned a great deal about your capacity. I can remember not the strategic plan we completed last year, but the one before that. We were concerned about agency capacity. Caitlin and Network Strategy Team is about to roll out a survey on agency optimization. We thought we had some issues with agency capacity. We found out a lot of things about agency capacity during the pandemic, and who would have thought we could increase our food distribution by 50% in 1 year, going from 92 or 3 million pounds as the pandemic was beginning in FY20 or 1920, and then nearly 140 million pounds in FY2021. So, a lot of things learned, and certainly things that we can use together to our advantages to move forward. So just real quickly, just wanted to kind of remind us all about the pandemic, what it has done. You all know better than we. You've been on the front lines, day after day for these past 2.5 years, serving your communities and all the additional folks that have been coming to you. Shift gears now just a little bit, talk about some strategic plan initiatives. I'm going to talk about 3 specifically. Pop-up markets, infrastructure expansion, and NC Local Love. The pop-up markets was a neat initiative that developed during our strategic plan last year. What we're looking to do there, it's kind of multi-pronged in that we want to get into some of the work you all are doing. We want to, look where we have need, where there's food insecurity in our service area, but maybe we don't have a partner agency close by. and there isn't an opportunity to get one. So the food bank steps in with our volunteers to fill that gap and provide some much needed emergency food assistance to folks in those areas. So we're using data. We're using data a lot now in this Food Sourcing and Network Services Department. So we're using data to identify the gaps in services, and then find a parking lot or a church or a civic center somewhere that will let us use their space to have the distribution. Then we engage volunteers and then show up on a certain day to do the distribution. We've done several now in a couple of different sites in Franklin and Wake County, and looking to grow that in the Raleigh area. So, this is one team. Year one of the strategic plan, we started with one. It was kind of a proof of concept thing, and we just really began doing these at the end of June. So we've only been doing them a couple of months so far. Super successful, and we're learning every time we do one. But the plan is over the next couple of years to install one of these pop-up market teams, and I'll talk about the teams here in just a minute. We'll install one of those teams at each of our 6 branches. So year one of the strategic plan, phase one of the strategic plan, we did it in Raleigh. This year, phase 2 of the strategic plan, we're looking to expand in New Bern and Sandhills. And then next year, the phase 3 of the strategic plan, expand in Greenville, Durham, and Wilmington. So those teams, what are those teams? A pop-up market team is a pop-up market coordinator. Cassie James is our first pop-up market coordinator here at the Raleigh branch. A new kind of hybrid position that we've developed for the operations department. It's a person who's got a Class A CDL license, but they also can operate the forklift and work in the warehouse and unload trucks and put away product. So they've had that unique skill set of they can drive a truck or work in the warehouse. And then equipment, right? We need a tractor and a pump trailer with a lift gate. So, acquiring the equipment, getting the staff hired, and then going and doing these pop-up markets. We're hoping to expand to do a couple a week on average once we get fully up to speed. And then, 2 days a week, we'd be doing the pop-up markets. Then the other 3 days of the week, the pop-up market coordinator would be looking to engage other sites, using our data to direct us where to look in areas, and then engaging the community about space, engaging volunteers, while the ops specialist, that hybrid operations position, they can work in the warehouse. They can fill in for a driver who may be out. It builds in some cushion because, we have staff outages and vacancies fairly regularly across the organization. And then at times when we have a disaster, we all know disasters are a part of our world, hurricanes primarily, but it can be other things as well. When there's a disaster, we would put a temporary halt on the pop-up markets and then move those resources. And eventually it will be 6 tractor trailers and drivers to where the hurricane has impacted our service area, whether that be Wilmington or up the coast toward Atlantic Beach or wherever, to help kind of rush disaster relief resources into that area without us having to go rent trucks, find temp drivers, wait for Feeding America support to come. We're able to do it very quickly ourselves with our resources. So very exciting initiative. We're just getting going. Lots of excitement around that and future growth for the organization, and to better serve the communities and fill gaps in service across our 34 counties. The next initiative here, Peter kind of hit on this a little bit in his reflection, infrastructure expansion. We are going through lots of infrastructure expansion across the organization. We moved into this, from a 40,000 square foot building in Raleigh to 108 6 years ago, from Tar Heel Drive to Capitol Boulevard. We recently moved from a 6,500 square foot facility in New Bern to a 26,000 square foot facility. And not only is the footprint bigger, but the building's taller as well. So we'll be able to pack more in there just from the sheer cubic volume in the space. We'll be able to stack 4 high in that facility once we get all of our upfits completed. I think everyone is aware we're building from the ground up a facility in Wilmington, which is very exciting. We've never built anything from the ground up. But coming along very quickly now. We've come above ground. I think, as I'm learning more about facility development and infrastructure expansion, a lot of work goes into stuff that goes on underground. But once you kind of come out of the ground, things change and happen very quickly. And we are certainly seeing that in Wilmington today. Sandhills Facility. Peter mentioned we purchased that facility a year and a half or so ago, looking to do some expansion there. And if you're a Sandhills partner agency, you may be aware this week, if you went in for your pickups, we have taken all the freezers and coolers out of the building, and we're getting ready to install a much larger freezer and cooler system in that facility, and some other facility upgrades coming there as well. We've already done some work on the warehouse floor. We're looking to pave the parking lot. We've about got a sprinkler system installed, water sprinkler system, which will allow us to, store product on that third level in the facility. I mean, that's been a real bugaboo over the past several years. The fire department wouldn't let us store product on the third row racking because we didn't have a sprinkler system. We're fixing that finally. So lots of growth across the organization in our infrastructure, and it's different, and we're getting used to that. We've transitioning, not completely, but transitioning from a lease type situation to a own situation. We used to only own the Raleigh facility, and we've grown that now, soon to be 4 facilities. So lots of growth coming from the infrastructure, which is going to hopefully, and we believe, serve all of our partner agencies much better. NC Local Love, what in the world does that mean? That is really funding through the strategic plan to help us engage even more farmers in our service area, to bring in more nutritious produce that's available in our 34 counties, and using the model that we learned about during the pandemic and CFAP program, that truck to trunk model. It won't all go directly from a farmer or pack house to a partner agency, but we're going to try to move as much as we can that way, and not just full tractor trailer loads, but less than full loads, 4-6 pallets. Let's take it directly to our partner agencies through the trucking company that picks it up at the farm. So lots of growth coming on there. We estimate this year, I don't know if I can quite remember that. I think we're estimating, Carter, correct me if I'm wrong, about 6 million pounds of fresh, nutritious produce to flow through that program this year based on the funding we have through the strategic plan. So, yeah, 6.5 million pounds. Mm-hmm. So lots of growth going on there, and taking advantage of something we learned during the pandemic, and that truck to trunk model. Okay, Lakeisha, next slide. Supply chain and inflation. Wow, what a crazy 2.5 years it's been. Everything went sideways in March of 2020. Everybody remembers you couldn't go to the grocery store and get toilet paper. Our retail donations shrunk by 1/3. People weren't doing food drives because so many things were shuttered. I'm happy to say that things are beginning to return to normal. More and more community groups and businesses are doing food drives to benefit the food bank. Our retail donations are climbing back to kind of pre-pandemic levels, which is great. Federal programs, Peter touched on that a little bit. Federal programs during the pandemic were massive. I think that year we did 140 million pounds. I think 38% of that was federal programs. So that's TFAP and CFAP and CSFP. But CFAP being massive, around 20 some odd million pounds during that year. And then the TFAP program with all the different kind of funding programs that were flowing through TFAP at that time, Alma had a huge impact, and that has begun to subside. It subsided very quickly with CFAP. The faucet was turned off to zero. Hope, I guess, knock on wood, hopefully a coronavirus food assistance program never has to come back again. But that program went away. TFAP is kind of beginning to slide back to pre-pandemic levels. And we're kind of thinking this year, about 1 million pounds a month of food distribution will flow through that program. It has been 1.7 to 2 million pounds a month during the pandemic. So that's beginning to slide back to normal levels. Our purchasing, we've got more funds in our budget for food purchasing, either through the strategic plan or the operating budget. And inflation's taking a bite out of that. We're not able to get as much food as we would have before inflation became such a big obstacle over the past year or so. So certainly some challenges. We feel, as Peter said, we feel like we're in a great position to move things forward. We learned a great deal from you all during the pandemic, and are so thankful for what you do every day. You're the boots on the ground feeding the community, and we're so thankful for that. Without you, what can we do? We need you to provide the food to the community. You are the tentacles that take us from being in 6 locations to being in 700 locations. And that is wonderful, and we are greatly appreciative. I think that's it for me, Lakeisha, unless anyone has any questions, or unless we're going to do that at the very end.
We will hold questions to the very end, and but thank you so much, Charlotte, for sharing that. And folks, as a reminder, please put your questions in your in the chat box for that, or the specific question and answer segment. But right now we'll move on to Carter Crane, who is our Senior Director of Food Sourcing and Network Services.
Thanks, Alicia. Yeah, thanks, everybody. I know it's been a lot of information flying at you today. My name is Carter Crane. I'm the Senior Director of our new Food Sourcing and Network Services Department. I've been with the food bank 14 years this month, and about 10 in food sourcing. So I was going to kind of jump on the supply chain and kind of where our food supply was coming from kind of this year. I love that Peter and Charlie both said it. You know, we are a food bank that doesn't say no to any opportunity. Whether it's an excess 2 million pounds of sweet potatoes sitting in a warehouse, or whether it's the CFAP program, we want to make sure that we're doing all we can, because we know our agencies are going to roll up their sleeves and serve their communities, and we appreciate y'all for that. All over the network, we can brag about y'all, just because we know that you guys really do put in the extra work to feed your communities, and we really appreciate it. We kind of try to keep our ear to the ground on where the excess is. You know, a couple of years ago it was watermelons. This year's been a little tighter on watermelons. We've still had a pretty good supply, but you know, we want to know where the excess is. We want to know where somebody is overproducing or doesn't have a market for really good food still, and get it as its excess before you know, it goes sideways. We know our with our logistics, we can get it to y'all very quickly, and we know y'all can serve your communities, whether it's a part of your normal distribution or when you all set up extra distributions for certain times. And we really appreciate when y'all do that and let your communities know when there's extra food. Thank you for taking that extra effort to make that happen when we've got some excess that we need to move a little bit quicker than normal. You know, our retailers are big partners. When they are struggling keeping their shelves full, we're gonna see a dip like Charlie talked about. We hope that is getting better. Our retail partners are always looking out for us and for y'all, and so we really appreciate them. Our farmers and growers, you know, we're very fortunate here in North Carolina to have a longer growing season than some of our northern friends, northern states, but we try to make sure that we are talking to them as much as possible. Where is the excess? You know, if y'all are working with farmers and we can help with that relationship, or if they've got more than you can handle, please give us a call. Let your engagement coordinator know, let your food partnerships coordinator know, send me an email, you know, whatever it takes to make sure that if y'all are hearing about more excess that we haven't heard about, that we can get it to somebody else. We really focus our team on looking at the healthy items, so the protein and the fresh produce, and but we never say no to a donation. We do not mind, you know, whether it's soda, candy. I mean, that's not the things that we go after. We really want to support our local fresh produce growers, and we really want to get as much protein into the network as we can, but we really don't say no to anything. We're very fortunate to be in an area with Mount Olive Pickles and Reese's and Butterball's World Headquarters and large Smithfield presence. So feel pretty good about our local relationships here. We also work with other food banks who have excess of their own that maybe they can share with us. Hopefully soon you'll start seeing apples from the western part of North Carolina, as the folks over at Manna will send some apples our way. We've gotten pasta from New Jersey occasionally. When you see bulk pasta, a lot of times that comes from our friends at a food bank in New Jersey. So we try to keep our relationships tight with even other food banks. There's also a food bank eBay system kind of called the choice system for us, where national companies like Kellogg's and ConAgra will put truckloads of food on this system, and we can go get those loads of free food or non-cost food. We just have to pay for the transportation to get it to us. So when you see things from outside of our service area, wondering where that came from, we probably went and got that. And again, try to supplement what we have here locally. But we definitely feel good about that. And kind of one thing we knew we were going to need this year was a little bit extra support in our commercial trucking budget, as gas prices have been so big and driver shortage kind of across the country. We knew and just the supply chain being a little bit messed up, we knew we were going to have to go a little farther out than normal to get food. So we did put a little bit of money extra in there, and Feeding America kind of did the same. They're kind of help food banks by supporting the commercial trucking funding again, so we can get that food, that excess, that overage to our area. So that's been helpful. Other things that Feeding America are doing, they're looking at more ways to bring in fresh protein and dairy items. Peter talked a little bit about advocacy. That is hugely important. We've got the Farm Bill coming up, USDA, allocating more funding for programs like TFAP and CSFP. Talking about the benefits of the CFAP program, I think are always good for your folks too. And then, Feeding America is also helping out with conversations with our food donors around food sourcing and strategies, and making sure other people are on board, getting, are there retailers that aren't on board with Feeding America yet? Yeah, we're helping supporting those conversations as well. So I just wanted to give a basic idea kind of about where our food comes from, as wherever we can. We definitely want to have our ear to the ground in many different buckets, because for the most part, when a manufacturer is building a product or when a grower is growing some produce, they want to have avenues of sales for that product. But thankfully, we do overproduce in this country, and it's a lot of logistics to try to find that excess and make sure we're getting it to the right folks. And we know that through our partner agency network, we have the right folks that can feed their communities. And so we, again, appreciate the work that you do, because we know it's not easy work. We know the last few years haven't been easy, especially, but I don't think any year hunger relief has been easy. So a little bit about the restructure. We think we told you last winter in Stone Soup that we were combining our two teams. Peter and Charlie both kind of touched on it, taking our partner services team and our food sourcing team and creating the food sourcing and network services department. I feel like it's been a really good time kind of educating each other on kind of the food sourcing side, and then learning and hearing more about what our agencies need and want. So it's been a really good year, where we've also been trying to look at where we need extra resources. Where are we stretched a little bit too thin? So we've been trying to figure that out, and hopefully you'll see some announcements rolling out pretty soon about some additional staff members joining the team, some shifting of responsibilities, and excited to kind of see where that goes. Again, kind of the goal with that is to better support you all in the work that you're doing, and hopefully continue the work of working together to end hunger in our community. But of course, the goal, better serve our clients, partner agencies, better help you all serve your neighbors and clients. So hoping to see that continue to move forward. Let's see, I know we want to get into the question and answer times. I'm going to skip over a couple things, but just again, we just want to show appreciation to the work that y'all do, the value that you add, the extra work that you do when there is extra product. It's never easy. Thank you again for caring for the community, for being flexible as we need to be when we see an opportunity we take advantage of. We know that y'all are doing the same thing. To grab what's available in the food world and feed our neighbors. So again, thank you for all the work that you do. And I'll kick it back over to Lakeisha.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Carter. Thank you all for sharing what you shared today with all of us. We will go into the question and answer segment of our presentation today. So I'm asking those that are monitoring the chat, monitoring the question and answer, to share any questions out that have been asked. And those of you that would like to ask a question in person, well, taking your mic off mute and doing that, we'll let you know the allotted time to do that.
Hey, Lakeisha. So we do have one question in the Q&A chat that says, what % of our donations come from our retail donors? And it also says we really appreciate fresh and frozen donations.
I believe our retailers make up about 50%. It's kind of between that 45 and 50% each year. So the big ones for us, obviously in North Carolina in our service area, are Food Line and Walmart. But Publix coming into the area, it's come on really strong the last few years. Those are probably our top three in pounds and probably store footprints.
Lakeisha, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A chat over here, but there might be some other questions in the general chat. I don't know. I didn't see any.
I haven't seen any questions come through the general chat box.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all. So what we'll do is go ahead, and anyone who would like to ask a question, please raise your hand, or then that will go in order to unmute and ask your question. Miss Sabrina, I see you raise your hand.
Okay, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, first I'd like to thank y'all for the presentation, and as much as y'all thank us for being the participating agency, without the food bank, we couldn't do what we do. So thank y'all very much, and congratulations on your upcoming retirement, Mr. Hinton, and enjoy it. I'm looking for mine, and I haven't been here that long. But it's after 25 years of being someplace, I can definitely understand it's time for a break. So, you know, I'm thankful for all the information. You know, I didn't even realize a lot of things that actually go down at the food bank, and I've actually heard some real good stuff. So I got some good information, and I'm glad I'm here. So thank you for your services.
Thank you, Miss Sabrina. Let's see. What else do we have? Does anyone else have a question?
There's a question and there's a hand up. I can't see who it is, but there's a question in the Q&A chat as well. It says, will the pop-up market have volunteer teams?
I would like to know, how do a volunteer receive a certificate, you know, based on all the qualification that it has to do to run the food pantry?
What was that question again?
I would like to know how a volunteer person get a certificate from y'all stating how we should run a food pantry.
I will say, Ms. Hinton, for that question, do you mind working with your network engagement coordinator for that question? And maybe they'll be best to direct you which way to go with that.
Okay, I was just wondering. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Carter, do you have a reply for the pop-up market question about the pop-up market will have volunteer teams?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've really seen a really consistent volunteer force at a couple of our sites so far, which has been great. Some driving 30 and 40 minutes to come support the pop-up markets. So we kind of launch it as an event, like we do our normal volunteer sign up, and we let our volunteer email list know about the event and what time to show up and what time it's finished, and then people sign up. So right now we've been creating just different events and releasing it when we have a firm location and time or site. So it's been really good so far. And we definitely have some strategies if we're not getting the response that we feel like we need. I mean, it's been taking, as y'all know, it takes a lot of volunteers to run a program like that. So we've been hoping for kind of 12 to 15 each time. And thankfully, we've been able to have that support each time to help make those pop-up markets a success.
Keisha, I think we have a couple other people with their hands up. I'm not sure who was first. We got Robert Campbell, it looks like, and then Delisha. I don't know which one was first. I don't know if you know who was first, Lakeisha.
Yes, we'll go with Rena first, and then Delicia. Rena, your icon is highlighted, but we're not hearing anything.
Robert Campbell.
There we go.
Rogers Eubanks Neighborhood Pantry. He must not be hear us.
Okay, no problem. We'll come back to you if that's possible. And then, Ms. Alicia, do you have your question?
No, not question. I just want to give you thanks, all of you, the work at food banks, because without you, we're not going to get anything that I give away over here. God bless you all. Everybody say thank you to all of you that help us out here in Carteret County. That's all. I pray for you guys every day, because you guys work so hard for us to get food over here. And even Craven, because it says they don't have, how you say it, like, because I give away produce, and I thank you for that. So God bless you. God bless you, Mr. Peter, for all the things that you're doing. And when you retire, we're not going to forget you. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you. And back to Rena and Robert Campbell. Are you able to unmute and maybe we can hear you now?
I think they may have put the question in the chat. So Eli, if you want to read that out, might be helpful.
Definitely. We actually have two questions in the chat. I think we can even combine them. They're about pop-up markets. So Rena and Robert Campbell's question was, how do they schedule a pop-up market? And Bernadette asks, can individual pantries set up their own pop-up markets? And if so, what are any available resources? So Carter, I don't know if you want to hop on and speak to that.
Yeah, I'll handle that one. So the pop-up markets are really meant for us to find gaps in service where we don't have partner agencies. So we're looking at areas where there's no partner agency within 10 or 15 or more miles. So if you're already a partner agency doing food distribution, we wouldn't set up at your site. We're just looking to go to places where there's need, but no partner agencies.
All right. Does anyone else have any additional questions for Peter, Carter, or Charlie? Well, if you don't think of any until later, feel free to reach back out to our, Ms. Hilda. Never mind, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. But
No
I appreciate everything that y'all are doing for us. And thank y'all for the Appreciation Day. And Mr. Peter, bless you on your retirement.
Awesome, awesome. Well, if you guys do think of any questions, I know this was a lot of information, a lot of good information shared with you today. We will definitely love to have your questions, and then maybe we can answer it later on individually, or maybe in a frequently asked questions, send that out. So definitely, if you think of any, let us know. We enjoyed you guys today, and glad you could come and be with us today. Otis, you had an awesome Partner Appreciation Month. I'm glad you could join us for State of the Food Bank today. We really want to applaud to those that are here and sharing all that good information with us. So thank you, Peter. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Carter, for sharing all that with us today. For as far as next steps, since this has been recorded, we will share this recording back out to you guys, along with some follow-up information from Partner Appreciation Month and State of the Food Bank, including the Partner Appreciation Raffle. A lot of you guys entered into that, and that was super exciting. So we're going to show those raffle winners and send those prizes out when we are able to gather everything together. But thank you all for your time today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, have a safe Labor Day weekend, and enjoy yourselves. Thank you.